Hello, you're watching Shalom World News. I'm Donna Villa coming to you from Chicago, USA. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. The head of the Australian Catholic Bishops' Conference, Archbishop Coleridge of Brisbane, has condemned the Russian onslaught in Ukraine as genocide. He made this harsh comment in a letter sent to his Beatitude Archbishop Sviatoslav Shevchuk of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, expressing solidarity with the people of the war-torn nation. In his letter sent on his behalf of the brother prelates, Archbishop Coleridge said that the war in Ukraine is not just a conflict in the distant land, adding that the church cannot be neutral in the fight for freedom. He said the war has serious consequences for Europe, the world, and even Australia. The prelate also paid tribute to the indomitable spirit of the citizens of Ukraine, which the archbishop said inspires all. The pro-life supporting governor of the U.S. state of Nebraska has declared that if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, a special legislative session would be convened to discuss further curbs on abortion. Republican Governor Pete Ricketts said on Sunday, May 15th, that such a session would draft a law that bans all abortions. He said that Nebraska is a pro-life state, adding that life begins at conception. The governor also said that Roe v. Wade was a horrible constitutional decision, adding that the new bill would not have any exceptions for rape or incest. A host of other Republican-controlled states are waiting to enact laws banning abortion once Roe v. Wade is repealed. In a similar move, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem has vowed to convene a special session of legislature if Roe v. Wade is overturned. She said on Twitter on May 2nd that such a session will seek ways to save lives and guarantee that every unborn child has the right to life. Still in the U.S., the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, has signed a bill banning protests outside any individual's house in the state following demonstrations by abortion advocates outside U.S. Supreme Court justices' residences. The pro-life governor signed HB 1571 into law on Monday, May 16th, making it illegal to picket and protest outside any individual's residence. Under the bill, any demonstrator who doesn't follow the law enforcement officer's order to disperse can be arrested. Violators can be charged with a second-degree misdemeanor, be penalized with a fine of up to $500, and be imprisoned for 60 days. The law will come to effect on October 1st. Various cities across the U.S. have witnessed widespread protests and marches for the past few weeks by pro-choice outfits after the May 2nd leaking of the Supreme Court Justice's opinion in the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization lawsuit. In the leaked draft, an overwhelming number of justices expressed willingness to uphold the constitutionality of the Mississippi's Gestational Act, which would overturn Roe v. Wade that legalized abortions in the country. In another news development, Caritas International has expressed great concern over the rising number of children who are displaced in Ukraine. In a press conference, Father Vyacheslav Granovich, SAC Secretary General of Caritas Spes Ukraine, said that 1.8 million Ukrainian refugees are children. He also deplored the escalating number of women and children who have become victims of trafficking against the backdrop of Russian onslaught in Ukraine. Quoting official figures, the priest said that 4,000 Ukrainians have been killed, including 250 children, since the conflict broke out. Father Granovich also pointed out the effect of war on children, as many of them has lost their fathers who died fighting the Russians. He said that even if the fathers return, they will be victims of trauma. The Palatine priest also said there will be a big gap in education because of the war and the pandemic. Against the backdrop of the shooting incidents in Buffalo and Laguna Woods, the Catholic bishops of the United States have issued a statement saying that prayer and support are needed to heal the communities impacted and for all victims of violence. With the mayor of Buffalo confirming that the shooting was a hate crime, the bishops have appealed for an honest dialogue rooted in Jesus to tackle the evil of racism in the country. The prelates also said that the church has been vocal about effective regulations regarding dangerous firearms, adding that they will strive to seek ways to end violence. Apart from offering prayers for the victims, their families, and all those who have been impacted by the violent incidents, they also prayed for, quote, those on the front lines who risk their lives in responding to the calls for help, and to those in the medical fields who minister to those who have been harmed, end quote. Christian churches in Jerusalem jointly condemned the violent attack by Israeli security personnel on mourners during the funeral of Arab Catholic journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. A reporter who worked for Al Jazeera, Shireen was shot dead while covering a security operation in the Jenin refugee camp on May 11th. During a press conference at the St. Joseph's Hospital in Jerusalem, the Greek Patriarch, the Latin Patriarch, the bishops, and the faithful of the Christian churches across the Holy Land denounced the violent interruption of the funeral procession of Shireen on its way from the hospital to the Greek Melkite Church. Describing the violence as an attack on religious freedom, the church leaders said, quote, the police stormed into a Christian health institute, disrespecting the church, disrespecting the health institute, disrespecting the memory of the deceased, and forcing the pallbearers almost to drop the coffin. Alongside the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Pier Battista Pizzaballa decried the disproportionate use of force against people gathered to mourn and perform the final rites. A Polish Catholic bishop decried the lack of support from the European Union and other countries as it struggles to grapple with the large influx of Ukrainian refugees. Bishop Krzysztof Zadarko, who also chairs the Bishops' Council for Migration, Tourism, and Pilgrimages, said that the country serves millions of refugees from war-torn Ukraine. However, not much support is received from the EU despite its membership. The prelate said, quote, it is necessary to establish systematic and long-term assistance. I do not completely understand why there is no support from the European Union and other countries, end quote. According to the United Nations report, Poland, a country with 38 million people, has already taken in nearly 2.5 million Ukrainian refugees, adding up to nearly 60% of the total exodus since the Russian invasion. The Poles, despite the difficulties, have welcomed Ukrainians with open arms, and many families are hosting people from the war-torn country seeking refuge. The Magistrate Court of Nigeria, Sokoto State, has remanded 2 suspects in connection with the killing of Christian student Deborah Yakubu over alleged blasphemy allegations last week. Suspects Bilyamino Aliyu and Amino Hukunsi, classmates of the deceased, were presented before the court by the prosecutor Khalil Musa. He explained that they led the mob that killed Deborah. The suspects have pleaded not guilty to the crime. The defense counsel, led by a professor, sought the suspects' bail, which the magistrate refused, and the 2 were sent to a correctional center. The court adjourned the hearing for a later date. Meanwhile, the Archbishop of the Catholic Archdiocese of Abuja has urged the people of God in the West African country to keep fighting for unity and peace despite obstacles arising from biases based on religion, ethnicity, and, quote, other artificial categorizations, end quote. Archbishop Ignatius Ayao Kegama stated that during his Sunday homily, quote, we must continue to speak up in a common voice and act in solidarity with one another against the evils of our time. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us tomorrow. In the meantime, you can visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.